postgame show here from PARX Casino in Ben Salem. Marc Farzetta, easy for me to say, with Seth Joyner, of course, and Derrick Gunn, presented by Pond Lehocky. The Eagles start off their season 1-0. They escape Brazil with the victory, finally taking control in the final few minutes there of the fourth quarter. And I know this was the Eagles season opener, gentlemen, but really what this seemed like to me was the coming out party for Saquon Barkley in his Philadelphia Eagles career. The man was absolutely incredible in his Eagles debut. 24 carries for 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also had one heck of a receiving touchdown on a beautiful wheel route out of the backfield. And I still, despite all those numbers, feel like, Seth, I didn't see enough Saquon Barkley in his debut as an Eagles tonight.
Well, listen, I'm not going to complain because the Eagles ran the ball 38 times and only passed it 34 times. Okay? So the big cry was to, let's run the ball and balance up. D, but I tell you what, Saquon touching the ball, 24 carries, is right around what you asked for. Yeah. And two receptions, one for a touchdown. So, I mean, there's your 25 plus 1 and 3 touchdowns.
This is what you brought him in to do. This is why you paid him top dollars to come in here. A big body back who can do more than just run the football. He can hurt a defense in so many ways, as we saw tonight. That wheel route in particular was a thing of beauty. You can't cover him with a linebacker when you get him in open space like that. So he had 26 touches for a total of, 132 yards in offense. If he gets that kind of production every game, it makes this offense that much more difficult to stop. You look at the weapons across the board they had, and you look at how they spread the wealth in this game tonight, and it's only the first game of the season. They haven't even cranked it up yet.
No, not at all. But one of the things that did jump out in the early goings of this game, there definitely was miscommunication going on there in the offense, and that comes from not playing with Cam Jurgens yet if you're Jalen Hurts. That also comes from not running plays called by Kellen Moore yet if you're Jalen Hurts. And you saw in that first quarter, in particular with turnovers, bad decisions, that was coming back to bite the Eagles in the behind, unfortunately, before they were able to come roaring back and at least go punch for punch with the Green Bay Packers in the middle portion of this game. But without question, I think the number one guy, and we talked about impact players before the game today, we talked about Saquon Barkley. And we talked about really what kind of dynamic he has in an offense, any offense. But you have this many playmakers to be able to stabilize a guy that could run the football as well as he could. Also establish the idea of him being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. I felt like after Saquon had that touchdown, everything opened up for this Eagles offense.
Well, I think this game was really about trying to figure out, what the identity of this offense was going to be. There was a lot of talk about, all preseason long about Saquon coming out of the backfield, catching balls, so on and so forth. That's all fine and dandy. But what is Saquon Barkley? He is a runner of the football, and he's one of the best in the National Football League. And if you use him properly, if you do things right with this guy, then he's going to give you a chance to win. Now, the halftime numbers were not all that great. Barkley had 9 runs for 31 yards. I think it was something like, the Eagles are averaging something like 2.8 yards per carry. But the thing with him is that it's volume for him. You got to feed him enough so that he gets into a lather and he gets into a rhythm. And then all you need is for him to, get the one burst, the 60-something yard run that he had. Boom, now all of a sudden, those numbers begin to go up. But you have to have the balance. And I'm okay. Listen, they shocked and surprised me. Yeah. I just want them to run the ball 35% of the time. Just 35%. You can throw it the other 65, but at least run it 35% of the time. They ran it more than they threw it tonight. And that's astonishing to me. Absolutely astonishing.
It's like what A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith were talking about during training camp. Sometimes you just stand on the sideline and watch a Saquon Barkley work. And then you get to see him in a live action game tonight, you're in awe of what he's capable of doing. I mean, you look at how great he was in a porous Giants offense. Now he's in a legitimate offense, legitimate weapons that take a lot of pressure off of him, which will allow him to do a lot of things. And he's got one of the top 3 offensive lines in the National Football League. Blocking for him, the sky's the limit. He might put up numbers this season that he's never put up before, not just in yardage, but touchdowns as well.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. Good defensive coordinators are not going to let Saquon have the kind of night that he had. It was like touch and go all night long. and he really didn't get into a great rhythm until the second half, even though he had the 2 touchdowns in the first half.
Sure.
I just think that with him as the addition, if they commit to running the football early, then as the game progresses, they can get anything that they want. They can get anything that they want. And they're going to have to 34 points is a lot of points in a first game when you haven't even played. Mm-hmm. All you had is OTAs and training camp. Your number ones haven't even really touched the field. But I think they're going to have to score points in abundance like this because the defense turned around and gave up, let's say, 23 points because the offense handed them basically 6 points. So they're going to have to continue to score points like this until the defense catches up, And I love – listen, I'm shocked at what I saw out of Zach Bond. They've been chirping about him all season long, okay? And I'm like, what's the hype? What's the big deal? I get it now. 15 total tackles tonight, 11 solo, 2 sacks, 2 hurries. Hey, listen, man, this kid was all over the place. Vic Fangio obviously trusts him, and, he got a lot done. Even on the edge, rushing off the edge, he looks to be, just as proficient at rushing on the outside as he does, playing on the inside.
And to think when he was down in New Orleans, he was a role player. He wasn't really a primetime player because they had so many primetime players around him. So kudos to Howie Roseman for identifying him as somebody they need. How many years have we talked about the Eagles neglecting the linebacking position? They went out and got linebackers last year. They didn't really pan out for the most part. Now, again, it's only the first game of the season, but if this is a sample of what Zach Bond can do, I'm really looking forward to that linebacking. And, oh, by the way, Nakobe Dean, who I still feel should not be playing in the middle, he had an outstanding game tonight as well. Yeah. So we're sitting here talking about 2 linebackers who had decent games tonight, which is uncustomary for us when we do these shows.
I know we didn't get much into the linebackers. We talked about Nakobe Dean. We talked about who was playing outside with him in the middle. But really throughout the preseason, I can't remember the last time I watched an Eagles linebacking core and was actually excited to see who would come out. Whether it was going to be Devin White, whether it was going to be Nakobe Dean, whether it was going to be Zach Bond or even Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And you see those guys tonight, particularly Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond, actually look like, I can't believe I'm saying this, the Eagles linebacking core might be in good hands with those two going forward. And I didn't expect to see that at the start of the preseason. And I feel pretty good about Nakobe Dean, him finding his way on the field tonight. Dropped that 1 interception that could have made things for the Eagles so much easier tonight. But then, Seth, as you pointed out, what Zach Bond did tonight, he was all over the football. The only time he wasn't was when his own guy, and I think it was McCullum, that actually took him out of the play on a long run for Josh Jacobs, one of the many he had. But all in all, you saw him really contribute to this Eagles defense tonight. I would say he really stuck out. And then on the defensive side of things, also to keep it there, Quinyon Mitchell. Talk about hyping up a guy. Everything you heard from either Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, Vic Fangio, Darius Slay talking about this kid, everything rings true. He was a proven professional, it looked like tonight. He looked like a veteran tonight. This is a guy also, don't forget, that was supposed to be playing on the inside for the entire game, and he's starting on the outside of the game with Isaiah Rodgers obviously out of the game tonight. He jumped off the field to me tonight.
For his first game as a professional, you were going up against some pretty fast Green Bay wide receivers. They have 3 or 4 wide receivers that can take it to the house at any moment. And I thought he battled well. He broke up some key passes for him in situations. And like I said on the pregame show, I want to see the kid play now. The best way to learn how to play this game is to play the game. Don't just put him in situations. You drafted him in the first round for a reason. Vic Fangio endorsed this draft pick for a reason. I want to see why. And I got a good sample of what he's capable of doing tonight. Now, still a lot of football to play. He's going to play some elite receivers every week in and week out. It's going to be a learning curve for him. But it's best to have him learn while he's on the field instead of sitting and asking questions of somebody else in front of him.
The famous baptism by fire, Seth.
Well, hey, listen. I get your point, D, but sometimes not every rookie is actually ready, even if you draft him in the first round, to be thrown in the fire. It's pretty darn evident that this kid is.
Yeah.
He just competed all over the football field tonight. And, it takes a certain level of confidence because, listen, I can remember when I first came in the game, And I can remember my first preseason game, we were playing against the San Diego Chargers in San Diego, okay? And I believe it was Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow's last year in San Diego.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm standing down there, I'm like, that's Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow. You know, and I asked myself the question internally, I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't until, you know, after I got cut and I came back and I could, you know, get out in the field and, you know, start to gain some confidence. There was a time where the switch came on my rookie year. And I was like, yeah, not only, you know, do I belong here, and not only can I survive here, I can thrive here. So with a lot of young players, it's confidence. You know, you're now playing with the big boys. And do you believe in yourself enough? Have you played enough? Do you understand what the coaches are asking you to do enough that you can play with your confidence level up here? Because not every young player can actually do that.
When a coaching staff drafts a player like that, whether it be a linebacker or a cornerback, you want to know as much about his mental psyche as you do his physical ability. And from what I've seen in a small sample tonight, I understand now why they drafted him. He doesn't back down. He wasn't afraid to get up in wide receiver's face and play bump and run. He wasn't afraid to play clutch and grab when he had to. You know, some young players that Seth talked about, the moment can be too big for them. And the mindset is, I don't want to make a mistake. So they do things that they're not taught to do or not accustomed to doing, giving a little bit too much cushion at times and allowing receivers to put them on a highlight reel. This young man went out there and battled tonight. And I was really impressed with what I saw from him.
The physicality from him tonight as a rookie was that of a pro. Was that of a guy who, like I said, was a veteran. And that's certainly what he brought to the table tonight.
Yeah.
That was a lot of good we just talked about right there. We have a quarterback we have to talk about.
Oh, you brought that up.
I mean, how do you not bring it up? I mean, it is the quarterback, the franchise guy. I think we can agree that we had some pretty good stuff, and we will certainly get to that as the show goes on. But Derrick Gunn, if you want to take this, I believe you have lined up a pretty special guest to be joining us all the way from Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yeah, I guess the signal worked because, as I said on the pregame show, signal permitting, we were going to bring in the one and only Brandon Graham, and Brandon is on the line, and he joins us now. And BG, first of all, congratulations on the win. Your thoughts on the way the game unfolded, man? I mean, you gave up 414 yards of offense, 163 yards rushing, but you guys made some big plays when you had to as a defense.
Yeah, you know what? It was more, I mean, we had them conditions, man. You know, we all was out there. Both teams, you know, playing our best that we could with what we was dealt, and I think that it was two good teams out there, man, that fought to the end. Of course, we got some stuff to clean up, but I like the way we fight, and I love the way everything just came about. You know what I'm saying? I think that for the most part, as you know, this was our first time together. So, man, I'm excited for what we gonna build on. And so I like what we got. Definitely got to.
BG, I know that this is your last year before you call it, you know, a day. But I'm telling you, man, I watched you tonight. You played a lot of football tonight. Vic told you to be ready to play a lot. How you feeling after tonight's victory?
Man, I'm still feeling young, man. I made a couple plays in there. I was happy. You know, the biggest thing for me is just contributing mentally for the guys, you know, on the sideline. Then when my name is called, you know, go in and try to be that knockout punch or, you know, get something started. But, yeah, man, I just try to be in the best shape that I can and staying ready. And I guess I know in a couple, what is it, 48 hours, will you really know how I'm really feeling? Right now, I'm kind of numb right now.
BG, we'll certainly let Howie know that you feel young and maybe you signed a 10-year extension. When it came to the game tonight, obviously a lot of new pieces out there, especially Vic Fangio as your defensive coordinator. How did you feel everything went in terms of just the fluidity to the defense, play calls, and you guys being able to go out there and execute?
I think it was good. The Packers definitely caught us in some plays that beat us on good calls against some of the blitzes that we called, especially that reverse. We was blitzing from the left side, and they ended up doing a reverse to our left, they right, and they smashed everybody to the right side. And as they was going, and man, it was some good plays out there. I mean, I was more excited on us, on how we was talking after mistakes happened. Guys was just, not getting on each other. It was more about next play, man, and go out there, let's go make a play. When that boy Reed made that interception, we just was talking. So everything was a really good feeling, man, just on Vic calling the plays. I love just how N'Kobe took command. He should have caught that pick, though. That would have definitely put us in a better position. But,
I'm glad you said it.
But you know what? I know that them plays going to happen. I was just happy we was just in position to help the team win in the end, and the offense did what they were supposed to do towards the end.
Hey, BJ, I have to ask you, man, because from our perspective watching this game, there was a lot of concern about the possibility of players getting hurt. How bad was that field out there, man? Because a lot of people were slipping and sliding. The announcers kept referring to it. And I know players, for the most part, were not happy about that field.
Yeah, you know what? With what we learned from the Super Bowl, we didn't complain about it. We just went out there and did our job. That was the biggest thing. Because that's what we learned from that Super Bowl. When we was complaining on the sideline, doing all that stuff, it was no point. It didn't serve us. And so this game, we made a point, put them studs in, made sure that everybody had them. And if you still slip, it's okay. We gonna make the next play. And that was the mindset, because it was more. The Packers slipped on some plays too. Same thing. I think that it was more not getting in your head about it. And I think that we did a good job of that, because it was what it was. Y'all seen it. But at the end of the day, we can't control nothing but what we do and the effort that we put in. And I made sure that we do what we did in the Super Bowl. And we talked about it on the sideline beforehand, and we handled it the right way.
Yeah, we were thinking you guys were calling upon that experience. BG, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations, obviously, on this victory, starting off the season 1-0. Thanks again for joining us, and safe travels back to South Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'll see y'all soon, man. I appreciate you. Hey, send that check in the mail.
Hey, send your request to Seth Joyner. He's got all the money, man.
BG, thanks so much, brother. Appreciate it. How about that? All the way from Brazil during the show.
That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff, D-Gun.
That was great.
Thank you.
That was great. We're going to be back. We're going to break it all down when we return. This is the Parx Casino post-game show brought to you by Lehocky.
When you open the betPARX app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the anticipation of another face card, the thrill of an extra spin, and the pure joy of a jackpot. It's all your favorite games at your fingertips. Plus, get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. betPARX.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the Home Care Program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
Welcome back to the Parx Casino post-game show brought to you by Lehocky. We are here live at Parx Casino in Bensalem. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn. And we do appreciate Brandon Graham joining us all the way from Brazil after the Eagles open up their season with a 34-29 victory over the Green Bay Packers, a breakout game as an Eagle. Of course, for Saquon Barkley, we had talked a lot about the defense and the breakout players there as well. But when you talk about this Eagles offense, you do have to talk about the quarterback. You do have to talk about the play calling. One of the things we addressed in the open during the pregame show today, gentlemen, was one of the things we wanted to see different in Jalen Hurts. And the number one thing that we needed to see him stop doing was turning the football over. You have a poor decision, an underthrown ball in the middle of the field during the Eagles. I believe it was their second possession. And then later on, you also see a drop snap. We had concerns about possible communication between him and Cam Jurgens. And then we see the RPO. We see some bubble screens, tight end screens that we saw from a year ago. We see him again tonight. Overall, what type of evaluation, Seth, would you give Jalen Hurts running the offense tonight?
You know, if I gave him a score, a grade, I'd have to give him a C+. You know, and a lot of people probably won't agree with that. But the thing that hurt this football team the most last year as far as Jalen Hurts is concerned was his turnovers. So he comes out in the first two possessions tonight. The first possession, I think it's the second pass that he threw, is an interception, ill-advised pass. In that situation, you just got to throw that ball away, punt it. Your defenses play well, okay, and rely on your defense. The first part is he's got to make a better decision. The second part is 3rd and 15. Don't put your quarterback in that position. Call a running play. You know you're not going to get a whole bunch of yards, you know, but at least you punt the ball and you put your defense in a position to come on the field and hopefully get you better field position. Next series, they get a miscommunication between he and Cam Jurgens. Cam snaps the ball early. So the first two possessions of this new season, they do the exact same thing that hurt them all the last 6-7 games of last season. You know, so at some point it's like, what did we learn? Did we not learn anything to adjust and come to a different conclusion about how we do things and how we protect the football? If it was not for the defense, that game could have been 14-0 real easy, and a different outcome could have been what it was. Do you realize that the offense turned the ball over on 3 different occasions tonight? And the Green Bay Packers only converted 9 total points out of those 3. I mean, a lot of credit has to go to the defense for how they held early, because it could be a different deal. Now, Jalen's got to make smarter decisions, but I also believe that the coaching staff has got to make better calls until he understands, because you have a quarterback, D-Gun, in my opinion, who believes that he can make something happen all the time. So at times he makes decisions based on trying to play hero ball. And if I'm a coach, if them as coaches, they have to look at him and say, we got to protect him from himself. Because if he thinks that he can do everything, and we know that there's situations where we just want to get in position to punt the ball, then make the call to put him in position to take him away from making a stupid play. You know, but if you got 3rd and 15 and you got all goals called, what do you think can happen? Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
I think a C+ is a little generous. I'm going to go with a C. and the reason being, I saw too much of Jalen Hurts from the last 6-7 games of last season. You had all offseason to study the film. You brought in this offensive wizard in Kellen Moore, who was supposed to refine him and help him not make certain mistakes that he made over the last quarter of that season last year. And we saw some of these things again tonight. He could have had a third pick on an out route. It should have been a pick, and the DB dropped the ball there. Seth is right. Sometimes he thinks he's Superman and make a play on any and every given situation. Sometimes you have to know when to hold him and when to fold him, okay? Now, there were a couple of times he was flushed out of the pocket, and I'm thinking he's going to make some kind of throw, and he threw the ball away, which is a smart move. Throw the ball away to live to play another day. But there's also too many times when he's still a little bit, to me, indecisive with the football. Don't get me wrong. He made some beautiful throws in this game, but I want to see his game elevate to another level in terms of consistency. Now, it's only one game out of the gate. But and I said this in the green room while we're watching the game. Eagles win the game. Fans are going to be happy. But for the next 10 days, until they play the Atlanta Falcons on Monday night, there's going to be so much chatter about Jalen Hurts in this game tonight. That's all we're going to hear next week on a lot of sports airwaves.
Well, I think a lot of fans, and I'll throw myself into this bunch as well.
Yeah.
What did we want to see tonight? We wanted to see Saquon Barkley look like Saquon Barkley. We wanted to make sure Giants fans, were still angry about the fact that he's going to be here in Philadelphia.
We saw that.
And we certainly saw that tonight.
Yes.
We watched Quentin Mitchell not look like a rookie, but look more like a veteran. We saw that tonight. We saw actually a more aggressive Vic Fangio than I think most people expected to see. We saw good linebacker play. One of the other things I know I was looking at tonight is I wanted 2023 to be far in the rearview mirror from Jalen Hurts. I did not see anything tonight from Jalen Hurts that made me go, oh, I'm glad this offense is supposedly 95% different because he's reading defenses better, he's not making bad plays. And when you really think about it, in the early goings of that fourth quarter, it was unfortunately vintage end of 2023 Jalen Hurts slinging that football and making some terrible decisions. You made the point about the out route that should have been picked off. It was a bad throw, a bad decision. You could certainly argue, Seth, a bad play call. You also see them go back into a read option offense in near goal line in that situation where Jalen Hurts gets taken back behind the line of scrimmage. And then the boneheaded play of boneheaded plays tonight is he's got all day to throw. Let's assume nobody was open in the end zone because we didn't see it. He rolls to his right. I think he was pointing at A.J. Brown to go to the middle of the end zone. He might as well just been pointing as to where he was going to throw the ball so Jerry Alexander could just bring it down. And you're coming back in the fourth quarter. You have a field goal right there. You're on the doorstep of getting that field goal, and he throws the interception. That, to me, was the Jalen Hurts that we talked about in the pregame show, going up against the Seattle Seahawks towards the end of last year and making horrible decisions. That was a horrible decision for me for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and listen, they're horrible decisions, but he still was 20 for 34 for 278 yards, and two passing touchdowns. So, I mean, yeah, we can beat him up about the decisions that he didn't make, but let's also give him credit for the plays that he did make. Like, I stand on both sides of the fence here. I've been defending him, but I've also said that, he's got to make better decisions. Like, I tweeted it out after he threw that interception. I'm like, you cannot throw that football. You have to make the proper decision right there. You cannot continue to turn it over and put your team at a deficit, But I'm not going to ignore the fact that he threw for 278 yards tonight and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Okay, we can't throw the bathwater out with the baby. Now, if he would have thrown for like 125 yards and no touchdowns, well, it'd be a different thing. But some of these balls that he threw were just absolutely dimes. They were beautiful, So we got to be able to look at both sides of this thing. Okay, yeah, they got through the first game after not playing since January 15th of the beginning of the year. 7 months without football, no preseason. Okay, he's got to make better decisions. I think everybody agrees with that. But I think at the same time, let's give him credit for the plays that he did make to help make the difference in the game. I mean, it has to work both ways, in my opinion.
I think for me, I knew Jalen Hurts could make those throws. I know some people want to talk about how inaccurate it is all the time. For me, it's not about accuracy with him. Like, I know he could dot the I. I know he could hit A.J. Brown like he did tonight, throw that touchdown pass. I know he could drop that ball in perfectly to Saquon Barkley on the wheel route. Even during the preseason when they were having joint workouts, he talked about running that play with Kenny Gainwell last year. I know he could do that. The thing that I was looking for in this game tonight was show me that 2023 version is a thing of the past. And Kellen Moore, and even to a certain extent, Nick Sirianni and Coach Ness, coach of the quarterbacks now, has coached that poor decision-making out of you. That's what I wanted to see from him tonight. That's the only thing I didn't see from him tonight.
I think we also have to pay close attention to his body language. There were a couple of times we saw from the camera ISOs that when he made a bad play, offensive linemen are over talking to him and he just had that stare like he did late last season, like he was just staring into oblivion, as if he didn't want to be bothered with anybody. He didn't want to talk with anybody. He just wanted to sit there. And again, he said, we have to remember, he's still a young quarterback who's learning how to excel at this level. As gifted as he is athletically, he is not a complete quarterback yet in the National Football League. We always hear sometimes it takes a quarterback 3 to 5 years to be a complete quarterback in the National Football League. Well, this is his third year as a starter with another offensive coordinator. So it's a whole new learning curve for him. His athleticism will make him a lot of plays. His decision-making has to improve or it could hurt him down the road.
When it comes to the play calling, both sides of the football, so let's keep it on the offense for now. Did you see a big difference between last year's play calling and this year's play calling with Kellen Moore, Seth?
Yeah, I think there was a lot more, this offense is a lot more dynamic than last year's was. I saw a sight adjustment against a blitz that Jalen Hurts picked up, quick out, to A.J. Brown to the left of the offense. I seen Dallas Goedert on a crossing route in the middle of the field. So these are elements and things that we hadn't seen. The first, 5, 6, 7 plays of the game, Jalen Hurts was up under center, D-Gun. We hadn't seen him under center probably, since his rookie season. So there's some different things to this offense. Absolutely. But what I still would love to see even that much more, okay, if you're going to put him under the center, that's great. Let's dot the I with Saquon now that we know what we got, and we should have known that to begin with. Okay, you got dive rights, dive lefts, and then you got the bootlegs and the misdirection, all of those things off of it. You seen Green Bay use it tonight. I don't understand, and maybe it's early in the season. Maybe that stuff is yet to come. Dallas Goedert on the seam route, the shake route in the red zone, especially against cover 2 in the red zone. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that's possible with this offense, and I think that they're going slowly but surely, not only to kind of bring Jalen along, but I think, some new pieces on the offensive line, and I think the offensive skill players are still learning a lot of things as well.
What did you see different with this offense versus last year, D-Gun?
Saquon Barkley. Playing the same.
That's it.
26 touches by a running back, not running back by committee, by one running back, and that's the big difference. His presence opens up so many things for so many other people. You go back to last year, A.J. Brown had 119 yards receiving. Last year, he would have had that on 10, 11 catches. He had that on 5 catches tonight. Why? Because of that man standing behind Jalen Hurts in the backfield. It opens up things for A.J., Goddard, Devontae Smith, and whoever else is out of Calcaterra. Calcaterra got a pass wide open in the field because they're so concerned about where Saquon Barkley is in the backfield. To me, that's the biggest difference in terms of what this offense can be capable of doing, because even if you go to play action and fake you giving them the ball, people are freezing to see if he has the ball or not. Those guys on the outside and in the slots have one-on-one situations. 8 times out of 10, they're going to win those battles.
I'll tell you, in the second quarter, they had Will Shipley in the game. They announced they had Will Shipley in the game, and you and I were pretty impressed with this. They run Will Shipley out from outside receiver, going wide out.
Yeah.
Put him in motion in backfield. Yeah. That brought in the defense to the line of scrimmage, and then next thing you know, Devontae Smith is wide open, 5 yards upfield, and he turned into an 8-yard gain for a first down. What happened to the Nick Sirianni from last year that talked so much about, motion, it doesn't do enough for you? It seemed like Jalen recognized what they were doing, so found a way to exploit it, and then really they presented, thanks to Kellen Moore, a play in that particular situation in that matchup that was unstoppable. I can't remember too many plays like that last year that were guys were essentially schemed open. I remember calling so many times last year for someone to get schemed open. Seth, I remember so many times last year, scheme these guys open. That was a perfect example of something we never saw last year, scheming guys open. Why is that?
You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because it ain't Nick Sirianni's offense. Plain simple, man. Plain simple. It's just not. the creativity that's there. Now, the pieces that still belong to Nick's offense are those darn read options that we kept running, all night long, where Jalen would pull the ball and get tackled for a 3 or 4 yard loss. I don't mind the RPO. I'm not a fan of the read option where it's like, okay, I'm either going to hand it to him or I'm going to keep it and run, because we got nothing out of that today. Now, if you want to put him on the edge, RPO off the edge, off the open side, where he can either hand it off, run, or pass it, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't want to see those read options anymore because we got nothing from that. And we're not talking about a great dominant defensive line. I think that teams have kind of schemed a way to take away some of the read option stuff. Now, if you get them on the edge, that's different. But teams are smart enough now. You saw how Green Bay, rushed him tonight. They're trying to keep him in the pocket because they know, especially when he gets out of the pocket to his right, he is extremely dangerous, But you're seeing a lot of different dynamic elements to what they're doing. And that's Kellen Moore. As far as, any semblance of what's left of Nick's offense, we're always going to see the RPO and we're going to see the read option. The read option was ineffective, to say the least, tonight.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the red zone.
I thought Green Bay defended Jalen as well as I've seen anybody defend him in terms of keeping him in the pocket. And we always talk about once teams get film on certain tendencies of players, you're going to see a lot of copycats trying to do the same thing. Last year we talked about whether or not he could read the blitz. In the second half of the season, it was evident that he was having some problems with the blitz, and I think that came from a lack of coaching from Brian Johnson and the offensive structure. Now the word's going to get out. If you keep him in a pocket, if you can force him to float out a little bit more, you might get him to do some things that he doesn't want to do with the football until he shows us that he's not trying to do it all by himself. So teams, everybody copycats everybody. And they're going to, and other teams they're going to see down the road are going to devise their schemes differently, yet try to do the same thing with Jalen. Keep him inside the pocket. Don't give him those lanes to run up. I thought Green Bay did a good job at that. Now, he hurt him a couple of times, but for the most part, I've seen very few teams defend Jalen Hurts the way Green Bay defended him tonight.
Yeah, it looked like tonight there were a couple instances, at least 2 or 3 instances, where Jalen Hurts was able to get out of the pocket and at least throw the football away.
Yeah.
He got away from it. I agree with your point, Seth. When it comes to playing that hero ball, he has a tendency to do that. There were the times where he ran up the white flag and said, not this play.
Well, I just think that the more mature a player gets at any position, the more cerebral he becomes. I'd like to see Jalen stay in the pocket a little bit longer in some situations, D.
Yep.
And then other situations, I kind of applaud him because he'll get out of the pocket and throw it away. Whereas if he stays in the pocket too long sometimes, and this is, that fine line, if he stays in the pocket too long, he doesn't have anywhere to throw it away. You throw it away from the pocket, it's a penalty and loss of down, So it's kind of that catch-22. Do you want him to leave the pocket and try to make something happen, or do you want him to operate from the pocket, efficiently as a quarterback? Listen, I watched the game last night, the Kansas City-Baltimore game, and I tweeted, I said, it's going to be very difficult for Baltimore to win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl, specifically being on the AFC side, because Lamar Jackson is an efficient, accurate, proficient passer of the football. He's just not.
Right.
He misses too many wide open throws, those throws that he has to make. He relies too much on his legs, and when you get into the playoffs, the great defensive coordinators have got something for you. They've got a way to defense what you do.
Yeah.
Okay? Jalen Hurts is different. Jalen can operate from the pocket. We've seen him operate from the pocket. He's just got to kind of figure out there are plays where he's got to throw the ball from the pocket. And then there's other plays where routes are beyond the short to intermediate, and your identity, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get explosive down the field. Now those plays, he's got to know, okay, now I got to get out of the pocket. Or if it's man coverage, the difference between man and zone for a quarterback. If I'm a quarterback and I got to scramble against zone, I'm scrambling horizontally to the line of scrimmage as long as I can to try to get somebody coming back. If it's man coverage, you know that the only one can see you is those two safeties or that single high safety. Everybody else got their back to you. So if that's the case, go on and take off. But he's got to mature into this thing of understanding when to run and when he shouldn't run, how to scramble to buy time, and how to scramble to throw the ball away, and when to just say, okay, the defense wins on this down, or the defense wins on this series. We're going to punt the ball, and we're going to give the defense a chance to do what they do. Sometimes those guys get paid to win too sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to see my quarterback running the ball 13 times. I don't want to see Jalen Hurts running the ball 13 times. He's not Lamar Jackson in that term. Lamar Jackson's a phenomenal athlete playing quarterback, okay, and he knows how to be elusive, knows how to get down. Jalen uses his strength, okay? And I think for the long haul, I don't want to see his body get physically beat up. And we saw him limping through a latter part of last season. I don't want to see that happen with him again this season.
Absolutely. Now, we'll continue the conversation, of course, about the Eagles on the offensive side of things. But one of the things we talked about a lot getting ready for this show was who better to break down this new defense with Vic Fangio, actually having Vic Fangio run the Vic Fangio defensive scheme in Philadelphia. Who better to break it down than Seth Joyner? We'll talk about Eagles linebackers as well as their corners and what the Eagles brought to the table with this new Vic Fangio, full-blown Fangio scheme. Back in a second. You are right now watching the betPARX pregame show presented by Pond Lehocky.
At Pond Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
The Excite Center at Parx Casino, the region's hottest live entertainment venue. Check out your favorite concerts, comedy, boxing, MMA, all at the #1 casino in Pennsylvania. Don't miss Funny Man JB Smoove on Saturday, September 14th, plus Straight No Chaser on Friday, October 18th. Don't miss these 2 exciting headliners, only at the Excite Center inside Parx Casino. Parx Casino, this is how you win. This is how you win. Tickets on sale now.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show. This segment is sponsored by Pond Lehocky. And yes, we are live from Parx Casino in Ben Salem. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn. Spent a lot of time talking about Jalen Hurts in this offense, Kellen Moore in this offense, but there's a couple of buzzwords that were surrounding Vic Fangio before he came to Philadelphia. Buzzwords like quarters, phrases like not aggressive, not blitzing, things like that. Well, what I saw tonight might not have been the best tackling in certain situations. I saw guys being aggressive. I saw guys being a lot more aggressive than what I expected to be with Vic Fangio, and I also saw a lot of guys out there be well-disciplined, certainly not like a team that I saw, especially at the end of last year. Seth, when you watch this defense with Vic Fangio, what did you see from his players?
Well, you know, for the last, 5 years, 6 years maybe, we started off with Jonathan Gannon, had him for a few years, and then we brought in Sean Desai, and the running word was these guys were Vic Fangio disciples, okay? And the Philadelphia Eagles organization has coveted Vic Fangio for a very, very long time. He was here, 2 years ago, maybe even 3, as a consultant. And had they known that Jonathan Gannon after the Super Bowl was going to take that job, they probably wanted to hire him then. But because of how the NFL hiring practices were, Vic couldn't wait for the Eagles to make their decision. So he took the job, in Miami, and then, Jonathan went to Arizona. But listen, at the end of the day, Jonathan Gannon was the branch. Everybody talks about these trees, these coaching trees. Jonathan Gannon was the branch. Sean Desai was the leaf. We got the tree now, okay? So now that we got the tree, to me, the difference is what everybody's been talking about, all that soft corner, bend but don't break nonsense, that ain't the way that Vic Fangio coaches. I've seen a lot of linebacker blitzing. I've seen a lot of, Zach Bond lined up in the 5-man situation and coming off the edge. And them dropping BG and dropping, Josh Sweat once or twice away from on the other side because he used to be an edge guy, but he can give you what you need on the inside and the outside. So when I look at Vic Fangio's defense, listen, he's a master at disguising coverages. The Eagles still have some work to do because, D-Gun, pull it up for me there. I just want to know what the Eagles gave up on the ground tonight. That continues to be their Achilles heel, is they can't get the run under control. They did a pretty darn good job in the first half.
163.
163 yards. You can't, you can't. You may be able to get away with a game or two, playing defense like that, but the Eagles have been a bad run defense for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's a combination of your defensive front, your 2 interior guys, or your 3 interior guys if you're playing a 5-man, and it's a combination of how proficient and efficient your linebackers are at reading what's going on, getting the double teams off your tackles, and getting in your gaps, and then your safeties filling, the open hole the way that they're supposed to. So I just think that there's a big difference of, in the Vic Fangio, the tree, in relationship to the Vic Fangio that we've been fed, that this is his system, and as a branch or a leaf, this is how we run it. No, Vic Fangio is a completely different animal, man. He's a different dude.
I like your analogy. I've been using the analogy, we've had the Vic Fangio cover band. And now we have the original act.
That one works too.
There you go. When you saw this defense tonight, Gunner, we've talked a lot about the offense and things that look different tonight versus last year. From the Vic Fangio defense, what did you see?
I thought it was the more aggressive defense for the most part. Early on in this game, this defense saved this team because Green Bay could have easily scored 2 touchdowns. They held Green Bay 1 for 4 in the red zone. When you hold a team 1 for 4 in the red zone, especially in today's offensive-minded football, you are more than doing your job. And that, you can give up. They gave up 414 yards of offense. But the most important stat is they only scored 1 red zone touchdown. When you can do that, you're giving your offense a chance to counterattack, and that's what happened in this game tonight. Green Bay could have easily had 3 touchdowns in the red zone, and they didn't. And the Eagles held them to field goals. So I like that. Now, they still have some work to do. You still have pieces getting used to each other in a new scheme. Too many gaping holes. Now, they did a good job early on stopping Green Bay's running attack, which is Green Bay's forte to set up the pass. But in the second half, Green Bay found the seams and started running the football on this team. So you've got to tighten some things up. Young players will look at the film and realize certain situations they might have been out of position. Okay? So that takes time. And the beautiful thing is they gave up a lot of yards. They gave up 29 points. They made some mistakes. But they start the season 1-0 instead of 0-1.
Yep.
Right. And I also got the feeling that tonight, one of the things I really would love to avoid saying, because this is what haunts me from last year, gentlemen.
Yeah.
They found a way to win. And I'm not saying that's what I'm saying tonight. I'm saying that we can avoid. I'm only pointing it out to say we're not saying it. But when you look at last year, how many times did we talk about found a way to win? No, they went out and they got this game.
Yeah.
This wasn't finding a way to win. This was 2 teams that were both dealing with some adversity with the field. And we heard even from Brandon Graham saying both guys, he wasn't making an excuse.
Right.
Both sides were having trouble with the field there. No excuses. But This was a defense that when they were up against it, thanks to early turnovers by the Eagles offense, they were there to hold it to field goals. They were there to keep that game close, and the Eagles just get a touchdown. All of a sudden, they're leading that game. Defense stepped up in moments like that. You had Jordan Love start to turn it on a little bit more in that second half after they were going blow by blow. That was the defense then finally stepping up again and making sure that they could get some stops. The offense started to respond to that as well, despite some late turnover there by Jalen Hurts. It felt like yes, certainly there were times of struggle, but when they needed to put an end to it and they get a knockout punch, you can hand it to a guy like Saquon Barkley, and he could be that closer that so many people like to talk about for this Eagles offense. That was the Eagles, I feel, taking control of the game. Even though it wasn't a blowout, I felt when they got that last possession, and Seth, you and I know said it in the green room, you give the ball to Saquon Barkley, and that's the luxury of having Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, hey, listen, I feel like, they played complementary football, D. Gunn, in certain in certain situations.
Sure.
And I think that good football teams do that. There are going to be games where the defense is going to have to carry the offense because it's just not going to work out for them the way that they want it to work out. There's going to be times where the offense is certainly going to carry the defense, and vice versa. But tonight, what did you see? You saw the offense get off to a rough start, and you saw the defense hold. And then you saw the offense kick it in high gear, and then all of a sudden the defense couldn't stop nobody for a while.
No.
And it just kind of ebbed and flowed all game long, and then all of a sudden, the defense finally got the big stop that they needed. They got the stop. The offense got the ball and just burnt the clock up, ran the clock out. And that's huge. It's huge to be able to play complementary football in those two phases of the game and then have your special teams just not screw it up. Jake Elliott made his kicks. The punter did his job. The cover teams did their job.
Yeah.
Hey, Green Bay had, a field goal to double doink tonight. So it's being able to minimize your mistakes, have your offense and your defense, play complementary football, but also not have your special teams be a liability in a game like that. So, and it's a long season.
Real quick to that point, again, you go to those two possessions in the first quarter by the Packers. They get the ball on the Eagles' 19-yard line, field goal. Get the ball on the Eagles' 13-yard line, field goal. Right. Defense complimenting the offense and picking them up.
Yep.
I still think in the long run, it's going to take the defense probably half of the season to play Vic Fangio-type football. They came through and they had to early in this game. And then, like Seth was talking about, they disintegrated somewhat. This offense, as I said in the pregame show, even if it's not at its best, with the weaponry they have, should accidentally score 28 points a game. They put up 34 points in this game tonight against a decent but mediocre Green Bay defense. They're going to have to win shootouts. The Atlanta Falcons are coming up. Atlanta Falcons, you look at how they revamped that team in the offseason. Now, we haven't seen the Falcons play a game. We will on Sunday. We haven't seen them play a game yet. That's going to be an interesting Monday night game as well. They may have to put up 34 points again to win that game against the Atlanta Falcons. But that's okay, though.
Unless they can get Kirk Cousins to be Kirk Cousins now.
But Kirk Cousins plays like an MVP quarterback in the regular season.
Yeah, but
he gets to the playoffs.
But, listen, you guys, you hear me say it all the time.
Right.
The difference always is, okay, pressure is every quarterback's kryptonite.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. I don't care who it is. There's only been a handful that I've ever played against and a handful that I'm watching right now, that handles pressure the proper way. And Kirk Cousins is one of those guys that if you can apply the pressure, then you stand a good chance of having you throw you some, and him make enough mistakes throughout the game. Now, if you let him sit back there's not a throw he can't make, and he's been around long enough to look at what you're doing and pre-snap, decipher any and everything that you might be in, okay? But you got to come with pressure to speed up his clock and make his decision-making a lot faster than he wants it to be because he is pressure adverse. He is one of those players that is that way, So that's going to be the Eagles' chore going into next week's game. I know I'm moving quick towards that, and we got a lot to do still yet to do here. But I don't know how we got there, but we got there.
That was that Derrick Gunn fella. That Derrick Gunn fella. It's like, hey, anyway, about Kirk Cousins. It's like, dude, but it's at 10 days from now.
No. I just said it's going to be an interesting matchup, and I'm going to see how they evolve 10 days from now in that Monday night game, which is going to be their home opener. So they're going to be jacked up. But it's going to be interesting because of what Atlanta's done in the offseason, also to revamp their team as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to talk about Atlanta anymore.
As far as tonight goes, one of the things that is really I've really thought about since minicamp even was when Jordan Davis addressed the media. And he said something that really caught my attention, and I was looking for it tonight. I saw a little bit of it, not a lot, but a little bit, especially when the Green Bay Packers go off for 160-plus yards on the ground. It's not really a bragging point for interior defensive linemen. But he said no one's coming to save us. Fletcher Cox is retired. Obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, Jason Kelce isn't here. But for us on defense, we don't have that guy that we can hang our hat on and say, that guy's going to make a play for us. Now that's us.
That's right.
Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are now going to be the anchors of that defensive line. Even with Brandon Graham on the edge still being here as the seasoned veteran and all that, it's going to come down to how they play on the interior of this defensive line. Especially, I don't think we can get used to Vic Fangio blitzing as much as he did tonight. Linebackers doing that, I'd like to.
Right.
But the career of Vic Fangio hasn't really lent itself to blitzing a lot. So your linemen are going to have to step up. Did you guys see tonight from those interior guys, even Milton Williams, guys that were trying to make a statement to say, no one's coming to save us. This is our show. We got to make plays. Derrick Gunn, did you see that tonight?
I saw it early in the game when Green Bay tried to run right at the Eagles' interior. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter both, were plugging the holes and didn't give Josh Jacobs much room to run. But again, by the time teams made adjustment in the second half, Green Bay began to find the seams and did some damage on them against the run. So that's going. Young players, go back to the drawing board. Look at what you did. Look at your technique. Where were you on certain running situations, okay? And learn from that and grow from that. Yeah, I think this is a pivotal year for Jordan Davis. This is year 3. I still want to see that kid that came out of Georgia who was this phenomenal athlete who was like, I hate to say it's like a ballerina built like a freight train, okay? I mean, the guy can flat out move. He was an earth mover. I want to see that guy. I haven't yet to see that in the National Football League. He showed it sporadically in this game tonight. I need to see it consistently week in and week out.
Seth Joyner, you look at those DTs, you look at that NT there in the middle of the line there.
In order to be a dominant player, you have to be dominant all game.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with both of these young players is they flash. They're always flashing. There was a run play in the first quarter that Jordan Davis just anchored the double team and just blew it up. That's the only thing that I remember that Jordan Davis did all night tonight.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay? There's a couple of pass rushes by, Jalen Carter where he's just destroyed the one-on-one. Those are the only things that I remember tonight. I don't have the stat in front of me right now, but how many plays did Green Bay run? And all you remember is 2 or 3 plays by your 2 starting defensive tackles?
58.
So they ran 58 plays, and I only got 3, maybe 4 plays at the most that I can that comes to my memory of something special that my 2 starting defensive tackles did. Now, I got to go back and watch the film. Now I'm starting to sound like Nick Sirianni. I got to go back and watch the film, and I can, better assess it. But my football eye tells me that neither one of them did a whole lot tonight. And I'm going to take it a step further because you want to talk about the interior guys. Now, those guys are important to the run game along with the linebackers. The linebackers have got to fit and pull those double teams off everywhere they can. The most glaring piece to me was the outside rush by the pass guy, by the defensive ends and the rush guys. Josh Sweat no-showed tonight. He got close a couple of times. They call him hurries. I call him almost. Then, Nolan Smith, he's notorious for being, just a speed rusher, and everybody's got the book on him. So they're just going to let him run up the field and push him on by. And Bryce Huff, the guy that was supposed to come in here and replace Hassan Reddick, I don't think I've seen him on the field, but maybe under 10 times. Now, you mean to tell me you signed this guy to a 3-year? 3
years, $53 million.
3-year, $53 million, and you mean to tell me he's only playing a handful of plays? You know, we talked about it in the pregame. If he's going to be the guy that you're going to give the bag to, and you're going to say that he's going to replace Hassan Reddick, he's got to play more than the amount of plays that he played, D-Gun. I'm sorry, you know, and they got nothing off the edge, and that's a concern. That's a concern.
When we were talking earlier about things that we really wanted to see tonight, Bryce Huff may be playing 60% of the snaps. I didn't think he was going to play 70. I don't even know if he played what he played last year, which was 40% of the snaps.
Right.
I barely remember even seeing him on the field.
I agree with you.
As great as Saquon Barkley looked tonight as an offseason acquisition, Bryce Huff was as invisible.
And I said leading up to this game, who was going to be your leading edge rusher? Who was going to take that role? And I sit here tonight and I say to myself, I still don't know who that person is.
I know who it is.
Who is it? Brandon Graham?
Zach Bond.
You think so?
Zach Bond had the 2 sacks, the only 2 sacks they had tonight.
All right.
He had both of them. So he's going to have to be a Swiss Army knife if you can't get these other guys to step up. Well, I apologize for cutting you off.
No, but he did it from a linebacking position. I want to know from the true edge rushers, who is going to emerge and be that? Who's going to be that Hassan Reddick? And, oh, by the way, you can stop asking. The Eagles are not getting Hassan Reddick back. They're not going to bring him back, so people can stop clamoring for Hassan Reddick. But I want to know who that is.
I'm going to keep caping.
You gonna keep chirping?
They need to just go ahead and you know, call the Jets and trade Huff back with that contract.
With that contract.
With the $51 million.
Give him their 3 and a 2 back and go and get Hassan, bring him home, and give him the extra $6-7 million and let him line up. Give him his number 7 back. And because you know what we got ain't working. It's not gonna work, D-Gun. Okay. We're going to be watching. We're going to be waiting and watching all season long, trying to figure out, you know, how we're going to get pressure on quarterback.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know, we had 2 years ago we had the 70+ sacks that broke, you know, our record.
Sure.
And everybody thought that the following year it was going to be something special. I think the Eagles had something like 40-something sacks last year. I told everybody that's an anomaly. That kind of thing doesn't happen all the time, you know. In this situation, this group of pass rushers is worse than what we had last year.
Wow.
By far. And what are you expecting? What are you going to get? Now, if there's going to become a situation where Vic Fangio's hand is going to be forced, okay? He's going to have to blitz more. And when you get into a situation where you have to blitz more, guess what? That means that your guys on the outside and in the slot, they got to play a lot more man coverage. Now you start forcing the hands of teams to do the things that you want them to do, things that's unconventional for you, and that's when the explosive plays happen.
Gunner, go ahead and text Howie that Seth has the trade.
All right. You have Nolan Smith, 2 tackles. I don't remember him making 2 tackles. They were so
were they solos or
2?
Third man in?
It just says total tackle, so he must have dove in a pile. He must have dove in a pile.
You know we used to call those?
What?
Pile jumpers.
Pile jumpers.
He had 2 pile jumpers tonight.
Josh Sweat, 1 tackle, 1 solo. Bryce Huff, 1 tackle. It was a team tackle. See, what'd you call him?
Pile jumpers.
Pile jumpers. Okay. All right. I don't know of these edge rushers.
Hold on. I think we need to have a end of the show award.
Okay.
The pile jumper of the game award.
That's wrong. That's so wrong. That's so wrong on so many levels.
And unfortunately accurate for tonight's game. The other thing is your point about having a better edge rushers unit last year. I'm including Hassan Reddick with 1 hand. Not even with 2 hands.
That's true.
1 hand, Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick with 1 hand is better than these guys with 2 hands.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't see him jumping on piles.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look again at Jalen Hurts' performance and also what we saw different in comparison. We'll visit it again when it comes to last year's team versus this year's team. And if there was one person that underwhelmed the most, we'll go after that a little bit more when we return here on the betPARX postgame show brought to you by Lehocky.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed. Has a friend ever told you a story about an accident that someone says,
you should probably sue them.
forget your friend. Call Lehocky Giordano.
We're an injury law firm that's recovered billions of dollars for our clients.
And with our vast network of attorneys throughout the country, we know we can do the same for you.
So if you've been injured in an accident, give Lehocky a call.
One conversation is all it takes, and you won't pay a dime until we win.
This is Seth Joyner, top analyst for the Birds. I've also analyzed the best auto dealerships, and I drive a Davis Honda.
Get to Davis Honda now and fall into savings. Lease a new 2024 Prologue EV for just $299 per month. See why Davis Honda continues to win outstanding awards for sales and service, including the highest award from Honda, the President's Award, 2 years in a row. Fall into savings right now at Davis Honda. Feel the Davis difference at Davis Honda in Burlington.
I'm Seth Joyner, and I drive a Davis Honda.
This next segment is brought to you by, on the Postgame Show, our friends at Verizon. Thanks again for joining us here at Parx Casino. Pond Lehocky presents it, of course, and also watching us on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel, as well as 6abc.com and your favorite social media platforms as well. Ladies and gentlemen, you watch the Philadelphia Eagles go out there tonight in Brazil on that extremely slippery field, once again, for both teams. And then late in the game, the Eagles were able to take control with the newcomer Saquon Barkley stealing the headlines from this victory tonight for the Philadelphia Eagles. For the most part, it looked like the Eagles were almost going to ignore Saquon Barkley before he started really breaking out there in the fourth quarter of that game. 3 touchdowns in total, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 1 touchdown through the air. But you see this guy go out tonight, and the phrase that was used for so many years was closer. And we always refer to it in the baseball sense, closer. But when you have a running back like Saquon Barkley, you're not to give the ball to a guy like Kenny Gainwell in the fourth quarter to bleed that clock. You give it to a guy like Saquon Barkley who will lock up a victory. I think this goes without saying. But with Saquon Barkley, or a Saquon Barkley, and it even seems a stretch to say that because there's only one, that type of talent, that type of closer on a team, I think you're very much avoiding what happened at the end of last year. And you have to think that was in Howie Roseman's mind when he said to himself, I'm not just getting a running back here. I'm getting a weapon that I can also use in the passing game. And I'm also using someone the defense has to think about all the time. And I'm also getting that guy in the fourth quarter in a close game that can close it out for me.
Well, he's not just a battering ram. He's a home run hitter also. You get him in open field. For a guy that size, if he gets in open field, he's gone. You know, and that's demoralizing to a defense. It's one thing when this guy's hammering you between the tackles and he's picking up 4 to 6 yards a carry. And all of a sudden you see defenders with their hands on their knees sucking wind. And then all of a sudden he catches them and he gets by him and is gone. You're not going to catch, not many people is going to catch him from behind. And that's exactly what Howie Roseman wanted in his backfield. Somebody who can not only push the line of scrimmage, but also can do some damage in the second level.
How much does it change for you, Seth, from a defensive perspective? To know that you have that type of guy that could beat you on a wheel route like he did for his first touchdown, run it up the gut and be able to just plow guys through the end zone, and then also be able to close it out there in the fourth quarter as well.
Well, he becomes a focal point. You know, once he gets going as a defense coordinator and as players on the field, you know, you have to be aware of where he is and, you know, what the potential is for what he could do, how he can hurt you. You know, some players you just line up and schematically, you know, the scheme takes care of everything, but you have to know where he is and you have to understand the situation every single play, because every single time that his hand touches the football, it's a potential big play, it's a potential touchdown. So you better know where he is. But, you know, to your point, they do have a closer. I think that, you know, Saquon playing the way he's played, you know, that's a tremendous motivational situation for the guys that's behind him. You know, Will Shipley, yeah, you got in the game tonight, but all you was a decoy, man. You ain't touched the ball all night. So you can't tell me that when these guys get into practice next week, him and Kenny Gainwell got 1 touch tonight, all night. You can't tell me these guys aren't going to be practicing, you know, with their hair on fire. Hey, it's the same situation. You know, I talked about it earlier. You know, the competition. Competition brings out the best in your roster.
That's right.
It brings out the best at every single position. You think that, you know, that Devin White isn't sitting back watching this game tonight saying, my ankle's a little sore. I better get it right. real quick.
Yeah.
You know, because Zach Bond played lights out. So he solidified his spot. He got to play 3 or 4 bad games for us to even have a conversation about him coming off the field.
Absolutely.
Okay? Nakobe Dean, you know, he made some plays. He didn't do anything outstanding, but the Eagles want him to be the starter. And because they want him to be the starter, he's going to have to really play himself out of that situation. Or, you know, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Devin White are going to have to really do something special, you know, to show Vic Fangio that they deserve playing time. Because Vic has said, I only really want 2 guys to be my starter. Yeah. I don't want to rotate players in and out. And I get it. I understand. You know, so when you create all of this competition, the competition that you created at the corner position, the competition that you created in some respects, you know, at the edge rusher spot, that should spur better play. But when you create competition at every position, now what that does is the cream always has to rise to the top. Guys have got to begin to fight for playing time. The Packers only had 58 plays tonight. I think the league average is right around 70.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you're playing that kind of defense where they've only got X amount of plays, then that means there's a whole lot less reps to go around.
Yeah.
You know? Like 50 plays is not a whole bunch of plays in the scheme of today's National Football League.
No.
You know?
Yeah, but it's eye-opening when you have 58 plays and you give up over 400 yards. That's a big concern. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's week 1. And we knew this coming into the season.
Explosive play.
Yeah, it was explosive plays, and we knew this coming into the season. With the new personnel and a younger nucleus of guys on that back end of the defense in particular, there's going to be some time before this team starts to gel. And that's why when I look at the personnel they have on the back end in particular, I equate it to the 2022 Kansas City Chiefs when they played all those young kids on the back end of their defense. They took a beating. They learned their lesson. By the time it got around to December, that defense gel, they went on to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, what do you call that? The learning reps?
The learning curve.
The learning curve
the learning
there.
Curve.
There was something else. You mentioned the guys playing behind Saquon Barkley, the guys on the depth chart playing behind him. How about the guys on the field playing in front of him? Cam Jurgens, obviously his first game starting at center at the NFL level. Mekhi Becton all of a sudden just finds himself as a right guard, biggest right guard ever in the NFL, and he goes out there and he plays tonight. When you look at the guys that were actually plowing the path or trying to do that for Saquon Barkley, or also getting down there in the tush push, which is still alive and well, what did you guys see from that interior offensive line position in order to make some pathways there for Saquon Barkley?
Listen, I always feel like, you know, it's incumbent upon the offensive coordinator to give those big guys up front the chance to get lathered up. Because to be honest with you, if you ask all 5 of them, they would rather run block than pass block, okay? Now, I get it. I understand. They get it, and they understand that there are certain situations where they actually have to throw the football. But there's times early in the game where you can set the precedent for how the game is going to go, where you come out and you make the decision, okay, we're going to establish dominance on the line of scrimmage. You know, there's very few teams that like to do that anymore. I mean, I'm watching the Kansas City game last night, and what they did was they came out in the second half and they established the line of scrimmage. That's the same thing they did in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Things weren't going particularly the way that they wanted to go. The game was just a little bit too close. So they made the decision that we're going to establish the line of scrimmage. We're going to dominate the line of scrimmage. And once we do that, it's going to open up everything else that we do. If the Eagles ever get to a point and they've got that type of offensive line and that type of generational running back now, that they make the decision, when we go on the games, we're going to establish the line of scrimmage right now. Unless you put 7, 8 in the box, we're going to run the ball down your throat. We're going to out-physical you. And then off of that, we're going to run all our play-action passing and all those things that go along with it. Then we can get whatever we want. If they ever establish themselves that way, this offense would be, you know, it'd be unstoppable.
Yeah. Now, the one glaring thing that I think most people look at is the unfortunate fumble that gets credited to the quarterback, or I guess charged to the quarterback would be the better way to put it. What did Derrick Gunn, what did you see on that particular play? Cam Jurgens snapping the ball too quickly, them not being on the same page, because we were all told throughout the preseason, they don't need to play together. The field's slippery. They can't play together in Baltimore. They can't play together in New England. Can't play together at the Link even. The field's slippery. So they go out there tonight, and, of course, in their second possession is where they had the snafu on the snap, and then you see Cam Jurgens and Jalen Hurts talking to one another on the sideline. I'm not going to be over dramatic and say that it was heated, but it looked like there was a little bit of a obvious disappointment in the conversation they were having.
Well, at least they were talking to each other and not at each other. That would have made for a much better storyline as we sit here and break down this game tonight. But that happens. I mean, how many times do we see Jason Kelce with a bad snap? As good as he is, destined for the Hall of Fame, could be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Jason Kelce made bad snaps as well. It happens. But when we saw that particular snap, it looked like Jalen wasn't ready for it. He was looking a different way. He was moving a different way, and the ball went the other way. It happens. Again, I go back to what I said earlier. When you make these glaring mistakes and you can come out with a win, they're easier to digest when you go back to look at the film and work on these things in practice to get ready for what's to come in terms of the next game. The offense didn't have any game reps in the preseason. We knew there was going to be some inconsistencies there. We saw that. But, man, they also put together some drives that were quite impressive for an offense that didn't get any preseason game reps.
Certainly did, and especially, again, we go back to that fourth quarter, a 7-minute-plus drive to help seal the deal in this game. The other thing that we didn't even mention yet, and, look, when you have a guy like Devontae Smith having himself a game, you certainly have a guy like A.J. Brown going off in the way he did tonight. A third wide receiver in Jahan Dotson, we saw him one time, and I think it was the mere game. He played. Him and Bryce Huff were sitting next to each other on the sideline. No, Jahan Dotson did get into the game. Didn't see much from him, unfortunately. It wasn't part of the game plan, but you have other wide receivers that are going off. I would say I wasn't expecting a lot from Jahan Dotson. I was expecting a lot, of course, from Bryce Huff tonight. And as we talked about a lot in the last segment, you didn't really get anything from him. And I'm curious when the snap counts come out early tomorrow morning what that's going to look like for Bryce Huff, because this was a huge acquisition by Howie Roseman standards in the offseason, not just because of the talent or what I referred to as the promotion, a guy only playing 40% of the snaps now being asked to take over for a guy who played 70% of the snaps in Hassan Reddick, but you're also expecting him to fill those shoes for the Eagles. To not see him and see a guy like Zach Bond, who I thought was at least going to be an under-the-radar guy. You called him a role player, a special teamer with the Saints before coming here to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
If there was anyone that was in this game tonight that I think started out maybe people buying low on, and you can sell high on after this game, I think Zach Bond would be the guy most people would be selling high on right now.
One man's throwaway is another man's opportunity, and maybe that's all he needed was an opportunity with the right coach. When he was down with the Saints, you didn't hear much of him. And again, this is a one-game sample, but my goodness, if he's going to average 12, 15 tackles a game, this guy's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. There's no question about it.
Well,
go ahead.
D. Gunn calls it one thing, I call it another. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And if he was New Orleans trash, he is certainly through one game, the Philadelphia Eagles treasure. I'll say this. I got to go back to Jahan Dotson because you said you didn't really expect much from him. I wasn't expecting for him to only get one target. Listen, that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are going to get the lion's share. A.J. got 10 targets tonight, 5 catches, on those 10 targets. Devontae is just efficient, 8 targets. He caught 7 balls. Even Dallas Goedert's numbers was up. He got 5 targets. He caught 4. I like to see Dallas get a lot more targets. But that means that, Jahan Dotson is really never going to be, a focal point in this offense. And I'm not so sure, that that's a good thing. Because for the longest, what have we done? We have basically looked at the number 3 wide receiver position for the Philadelphia Eagles for probably the last 10 years, and it's been mediocre at best. Yeah. And there are a lot of football teams, Mark, that have really, really, good number 3s, guys that can make things happen, that can run routes in the middle, that can move the chains on third down situations, And I thought that this would be the difference because everybody's like, oh, we just need him to be a role player. I'm like, that's the mentality that has us longing for a productive number 3 all along. You You just go through the guys over the last 5 to 10 years that we expected to get something out of, but we got absolutely nothing because you don't target them enough to keep them engaged. Now, you're a pro. You should be able to know how to stay engaged and be ready when the ball comes your way. But at the other end of the spectrum, we need significant, production from that position. And at some point in time, teams are going to figure out how to take the other two guys on the outside away with combination coverages, and he's going to get – Jahan Dotson's going to be the one that gets the matchup that they're going to have to exploit. And he's going to get 8 or 9 targets in a game and going to need to be productive.
Yeah. I'll say this. When I look at A.J. Brown and I look at Devontae Smith, I look at the last 2 years, you have 2 1,000-yard receivers, which I know isn't as big a brag as it used to be with the extra game, but it's still something, obviously. You also look at a guy like Devontae Smith, who 2 years ago didn't get anything in his first game, and then the next game, he's the guy that went off. I think in this first game of the season, the bright lights are on. The Friday night lights are on in Brazil. You're going to get your 2 marquee guys involved more than anything, and that's what Jalen Hurts did tonight. I wouldn't be surprised, not to hit the fast-forward button to the Falcons game 10 days from now, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's when you see Jahan Dotson utilized a little bit more, because you're right. One of the things that's going to help you carve up defenses throughout this year is the amount of weapons you have on this offense and the different ways this Eagles offense can get you. And even if you do have mistakes like tonight, turning the football over in your 2 first possessions, you at least had a defense that was willing to put up a wall and say, no, you're just going to get a field goal at this at best. And then, you have some other guys that could cover up that stank when you have big plays from guys like A.J. Brown. You have big runs from guys like Saquon Barkley. And, yes, you do have, as you mentioned earlier, Seth, clutch throws at times from Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm. When you look at when Dotson came to camp, I think his role is still evolving. Mm-hmm. I think they're still working on what suits him best, what routes. And if they're smart, they allow him to have input as well in terms of what he likes and what he doesn't like, so that he can be more efficient when his number is called. There are going to be games. Now, it's a luxury for this Eagles team to basically have 2 number 1 receivers at their disposal. And then you bring in a guy like Dotson, who is capable of taking the top off a defense as well. He's never going to be the marquee player on this passing attack. He could be a significant part of this passing attack, maybe not consistently weekly, but there are going to be times when he gets his matchup. And I think within the next couple of weeks, we're going to see how his role is going to be defined by Kellen Moore.
All right, coming up, we got game balls that I think we want to give out, who you would give a game ball to. And then also what we learned tonight and what we still want to learn about this Eagles team. Granted, yes, it's 1 game in the books. What we wanted to see tonight, what we saw tonight, and what we hope we learn about this team going forward. You are watching right now from Parx Casino in Bensalem, the Parx Casino post-game show brought to you by Pond Lehocky. Back in a few.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
When you open the betPARX app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the anticipation of another face card, the thrill of an extra spin, and the pure joy of a jackpot. It's all your favorite games at your fingertips. Plus, get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. betPARX.
At Pond Lehocky, we're neither a pond nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Pond Lehocky recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Pond Lehocky a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Welcome back to the post-game show. This segment is sponsored by Stay at Home Home Care. Once again, welcome back to Parx Casino in Bensalem for the Parx Casino post-game show, brought to you by our friends at Pond Lehocky, Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn. Gentlemen, we saw a lot of great stuff in tonight's game, some bad stuff as well. I said that one of the things I was really looking forward to seeing tonight was hopefully Jalen Hurts putting the turnover problem in the rearview mirror, putting it and keeping it in last year. Unfortunately, we saw that rear its ugly head with 2 interceptions tonight and a fumble that he was charged for. When it came to other things in this game tonight, what did you see that you saw tonight you weren't expecting? And also, what do you want to learn about this team in the near future, Seth?
I thought that they'd be better on defense against the run. I'm surprised. They played really well against the run in the first half. In the second half, Josh Jacobs got loose quite a few times. It seemed like, they really schemed the Eagles' defensive front in a great way to be able to get Josh Jacobs loose. The other thing defensively, and I know that, it should be 1-1, but, the one thing that the Eagles pride themselves on doing as an organization is creating explosive plays and eliminating explosive plays. The Eagles gave a lot of explosive plays last year on the defensive side of the ball. You saw it again tonight. There was explosive runs and there was explosive pass plays and explosive, reverse for a touchdown from 33 yards. The Eagles have got to get that under control. You cannot give up 3 to 4 explosive plays in a game and think you're going to survive that from week to week. The other thing, I'm along with you. I'm shocked that Jalen Hurts would continue to put the football in danger's way, in harm's way. Realistically, he could have had 4 interceptions tonight, or 3. If you take away, the one drop ball, he could have had 3. With a pick 6, if you really stop and think about it. And for him to continue to put himself in that situation, tells me he's either playing hero ball, he's trying to do too much, or, he's just not paying attention, to the details of taking care of the football. That's important. He's got to stop that, D-Gun.
I thought it was quite humorous if we go back to training camp and the reports kept coming out about Jalen Hurts having over 300 passing attempts with no interceptions. And people were feeding into that in a lot of ways, and I'm thinking it's a controlled environment. You don't know what's going to happen until the bullets fly for real because teams are scheming you. They're not going to show you anything. When you're in practice against your own teammates, you know what they're doing. I mean, coaches are saying, okay, I want you to cover 2 here, so the offenses know what you're doing and defenses know what the offense is doing. When you get out here live, you don't know what the opposition is going to do. I do have some concerns. Couldn't Jalen have waited at least a week 3 or 4 to throw an interception? He threw 2 officially. He could have thrown 4. And it's going to be a part of his conversation over the next week with the media. And, of course, the airwaves, the media airwaves are going to blow up about what he did not do more so than what he did in this game tonight. And that's unfortunate because he still did enough to help this team get that all-important first W of a season. I'm with Seth. I need to see this run defense tighten up. You can't give up 163 yards a game and be a successful football team in the National Football League, even if you have the explosive offense to bail you in and out, because that explosive offense is going to come up against a defense that can stonewall you at some given time. So I need them to get that under control in terms of being better against the run.
All right, 100% with you. Game balls, gentlemen. We have a lot to choose from here. I know there's one guy that could be, no pun intended, running away with it, but
he is.
All right, Gunner, you want to go first? Who would you give your game ball to?
It's too easy. I'm going to go with Zach Bond. I got to give it to Zach Bond. I watched him enough down in New Orleans. I was shocked, and I just said, why did Howie Roseman sign this guy? For the money they signed him, they got him at a bargain basement price. They didn't have to, but what he did tonight in this game, I was shocked because the linebacking play for the Philadelphia Eagles has been so overlooked for so long, and I thought he was just going to be a plug-and-play type player and just fill a gap until he got hurt and somebody else had to step in. He stepped up and balled out in this game tonight, and I said it early and I'm going to say it again. If he continues to do this, this man's going to be a Pro Bowler in 2024.
Seth, who you going with?
I'm going the same guy, man. He's running away with it. You know, for his first time playing in a real game for the Philadelphia Eagles in a new system. You know, obviously Howie and Vic saw something in this guy, and they did their homework. Even the guys on the broadcast tonight was talking about, you know, what a well-rounded athlete he actually is. Basketball player, scored 94 touchdowns, you know, his senior year or throughout his high school career, something crazy like that. You know, and when you watch him play, he plays with that type of athleticism. You know, he is very, very athletic. Now, I haven't seen him in coverage, but around the line of scrimmage, whether he's playing the run, whether he's off the ball, on the ball, rushing the passer, you know, playing in the run, this kid plays with, you know, a different tempo. So at least I feel like D. Gunn, the Eagles have themselves, you know, a winner at linebacker for the, you know, foreseeable future.
Yes.
And it might be one of those situations, dare I say it, you know, before long, the Eagles, you know, maybe talking about, you know, extending this guy beyond the 1-year prove-it deal, you know, that, I mean, you want to get him locked up if you can. Because if he keeps playing like this and he goes into free agency next year, you ain't getting him back.
You know, one thing Howie does so well is identify players they want to keep. And, you know, he does it as well, if not better, than anybody in the National Football League in terms of knowing exactly when to approach these guys. And let's face it, there are a lot of players that want to play for the Philadelphia Eagles because of the culture that has been instilled within this organization for years. It's talked about around the league all the time about the culture here. And I can't tell you how many times players have told me when new players come in, they talk about, man, we don't have this where I just left. We don't have that where I just left. Word gets out. And if he feels comfortable playing for Vic Fangio in this system and the Eagles pay him a fair wage, it's a match made in heaven. No question about it.
Do you guys know how many tackles Zach Bond had last year for the Saints?
How many?
Total tackles.
It's got to be under 25.
No, it's slightly over. It's 30.
30 tackles.
He's already halfway there, baby.
In the first game.
He's already halfway there. After
you know the thing I learned about football, and I learned a lot of it, you know, just because, you know, I came along D. Gunn as the 8th-round draft pick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players who have a lot of potential that all they need is an opportunity to show what they can do. Now, there's a lot of players at the other end of the spectrum, D, that don't prepare so that when their door of opportunity opens, that they're ready to step through and take advantage of it. You know, I always, you know, if I'm talking to young players, I always tell them, you know, be ready so you don't have to get ready. Because if you're a first-round draft pick, second, third-round draft pick, teams want to look smart.
Right.
So they want you to succeed. They want you to play, and they want you to start. But when you're a guy who's drafted late or undrafted free agent, you're a project. You're a project. So the dynamic's going to be different for you. The guys that they draft early, he's going to get 3 to 4 years to screw it up before they say, you know, this is a failed project.
Right.
With you, that door of opportunity may only open one time. And if it cracked, you better kick that son of a gun open because you might not get that opportunity again.
That's right.
Zach Bond seems like a guy to me that's been like, I've been relegated to special teams in a backup role all my years in the National Football League. And the Eagles are going to bring me here and give me a chance to shine, you know, and he's taking advantage of it. And I think that more young players would learn that lesson because at the end of the day, if you're not studying beyond what you're required to do and you're not preparing beyond what you're required to do, when the time comes that the opportunity presents itself and you're not ready to seize it, you might not get another opportunity. You might not get another chance. That's just real. That's about as real as it can get right there.
Beyond football, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Seriously.
Life.
Beyond football. Life in general.
Absolutely.
And I loved everything you just said. I'm going with Saquon Barkley because I like touchdowns. I mean, the wisdom you guys give me is great and all. Thank you. I'm giving my game to Saquon Barkley.
That's
What are
a
you,
good choice.
what is it, a Zach
Good
Bond
choice.
program? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
But we kind of expected Saquon to do that. Come on.
I didn't expect 3 touchdowns.
Why not?
I expected a hell of a game. I expected
Why not?
3 tutties.
Why not?
Because he's a running back and he's still on the Eagles. I'm not used to this. It's like picking. Did you think you were going to pick a linebacker? Talking about the Eagles defense?
No, I wasn't going to. I wasn't expecting to have anything positive to say about the defense tonight.
Exactly.
But I kind of expected for Saquon. Listen. Here's a guy. Here's a guy who's been stuck in the mud of mediocrity. For 7 years. For 7 years in the National Football League, he hasn't had a line. So every bit of yards that he's acquired while playing in New York, he had to get it on his own. Okay. He hadn't had a quarterback who was efficient enough to actually get him the football where he could be productive. So all of a sudden he comes to Philadelphia. He's got new life. He's home. He's on a team that's got the possibility of getting to, the playoffs and the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
He's renewed and rejuvenated. He's 100% healthy after coming off the injury and trying to fight his way back last year. So he's looking at this opportunity like, this is legacy time. I'm like really in my prime. The next 2 or 3 years is really my prime. Just because I've been injured so much, I hadn't played a whole lot, so the wear and tear is not necessarily there that everybody thinks is there. Okay, so you go and you bring Saquon here with the possibility of being able to touch the ball with blocking and opportunity. I expected this from him. I really expected this from him.
Fair enough. Fellas, an absolute blast on our maiden voyage. Getting this our game underway.
Beautiful thing.
We didn't even have to go to Brazil. We're in America. How great is this?
That's right. Exactly.
Not only are we in America, but we're at PARX Casino, of course, in Ben Salem with the PARX Casino post-game show. Catch up for the pregame and post-game show throughout the entire season. Brought to you by Pond Lehocky. Come on out to PARX Casino and have yourself a great time. For Seth Joyner, for Derrick Gunn, and before we do sign off, I want to thank this man right here for working his butt off to put this together. Seth Joyner attacking this broadcast like he would attack ball carriers.
I want to be like him when I grow up.
One day we'll get there, Gunner. One day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, everybody, and joining us here on the Seth Joyner YouTube channel across all social media and 6abc.com. See you in 10 days for the Eagles taking on Kirk Cousins and those Atlanta Falcons.
Go Birds.